In our Sunrise Smart Start, Congressman Joe Morelli expected to hold a news conference today calling for federal action relating to gun violence in Rochester. Morelli is expected to outline the steps for what he's calling an all-hands-on-deck approach, combating record-high homicide rates in the city.
Also today, in honor of Juneteenth, Monroe County Executive Adam Bello and Mayor Malik Evans will raise Juneteenth flags at City Hall and the Monroe County Office Building. This will happen at 11:15 this morning. There will also be a celebration in Brighton for the holiday today at noon. Juneteenth is a federal holiday honoring the end of slavery back in 1865.
The CGI Rochester International Jazz Festival begins today as well in Rochester. It will feature more than 325 performances with 130 free shows going through June 25th, the 9-day festival. It was canceled for 2 years. It's back in full swing this year. In 2019, over 200,000 people attended the Jazz Fest.
Well, James, it's going to be a nice day for Jazz Fest, or gardening too. I see that behind you.
Well, we got to do the gardening first, and then we can go and enjoy the Jazz
There
Festival.
You go.
Play a little jazz while you're gardening.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I was weeding yesterday and literally pouring sweat, just weeding the garden. Not going to be the case today. Much more comfortable, certainly. And then here's your Jazz Fest forecast. Both Saturday and Sunday looking great. Today's going to be the warmest. Certainly we're getting to the 70s today. Don't think we hit that number Saturday and Sunday. We'll do a last check of the 8-day at the end of the show. Mark Kelly.
James, thank you. Checking the roads with our Sunrise traffic, keeping a focus on the main arteries for your commute at this hour. 390, 490, and 590 all up to speed, although you see some volume is beginning to build in along 490 on the west side. All right, in other news, wind and thunderstorms sweeping across western New York yesterday. Now many left cleaning up the damage this morning. More than 7,000 homes and businesses were without power at the height of the storms.
We have some trees in the front of the house that took down enough that it blocked the road for traffic, blocked my driveway in. A neighbor was driving by, saw that, stopped and helped. A couple from our church saw it and stopped and helped. And that's I guess the silver lining to this terrible cloud.
Well, following up on a dramatic police chase Wednesday, police have identified 2 suspects arrested in connection to the chase. Police say 21-year-old Javar Marshall and 19-year-old Nasir Shafano were driving near North Goodman Street when officers attempted to stop their vehicle. The 2 then took off from police and hit a curb, causing their vehicle to flip. They were taken into custody without further incident, and each of them are charged with 2 counts of criminal possession of a weapon.
The man accused of targeting and killing black people at a Tops grocery store in Buffalo appearing in federal court yesterday. Peyton Gendron is facing 26 federal charges. If convicted on the final set of those federal charges, Gendron could face the death penalty. For the families of the victims in this Tops mass shooting, being in the courtroom was essential, but also agonizing.
Just made me angry. Very angry. Very, very angry. He has not a lick of remorse. I would rather see him dead.
I trust the U.S. Attorney General. If that is the direction that he thinks that we need to go in this case, then that's where we're going to go.
Gendron has been sent back to the Erie County Holding Center, where he is being held in isolation.
Monroe County Sheriff Todd Baxter traveling to D.C. this week to discuss gun safety. They're testifying at the House of Representatives. News 8 conducted an exclusive interview with the sheriff. Baxter says he wants to avoid making gun store owners the bad guys, citing that 99% of gun shops are responsible. He says he also wants police to have the tools to address gun violence.
99% of the gun owners are great. 99% of the gun owners do it really well. But we found out with a gun dealer right here in Rochester that that one caused a lot of havoc. Hundreds of guns released on the streets of Rochester, and we had no tools to solve this.
Baxter says he wants to incentivize responsible gun ownership instead of criminalizing it.
In Rochester, 2 churches holding conversations about issues plaguing Rochester City schools. They spoke on violence and poor academic performance. One was held at Grace Road, the other at Newborn Fellowship. Participants were asked to listen with an open mind and offer their solutions.
Children are human beings, and they have to be treated as such. And if you have a good rapport with them, guess what happens? They respond to you in a positive way.
That first discussion was organized by the Pathstone Foundation and Greater Rochester Association of Realtors. The second one presented by the Rochester City School District Community Consortium Partnership. Each one, reach one.
Well, last night a mother used Lyft to get her and her child to the area of Chile Avenue. The driver dropped off the mother there, then allegedly drove off with her child. Officers say shortly after a call came in for an unattended child near Chile Avenue. Police say they are working to determine if the incident was intentional or not and are following up with Lyft to locate the driver. The child is safe and with the mother now.
Monroe County's Meals on Wheels program currently serves 850 homebound seniors across the county, but more than 140 others are on a waiting list because they cannot afford the $7 cost per meal. With over 335,000 meals being delivered last year, the Meals on Wheels director is advocating for more funding for the program that she says supports and uplifts lonely seniors.
They're receiving a safety check. It's that check on their well-being. How are you today? Or how are you feeling? It's a short little contact, but it's so much more.
While Meals on Wheels has the resources, volunteers, and space to serve all of their seniors, including those on the wait list, they do not have enough funding for supplies. Just 3% of their funding comes from the federal government.
Well, in national news, the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol held its third public hearing yesterday. It laid out the pressure campaign it says President Trump and some of his aides put on Vice President Mike Pence to overturn the presidential election. Testimony hearing indicated President Trump was told by several close aides and Vice President Mike Pence that not certifying Joe Biden's White House victory was illegal and unconstitutional.
He was determined that we would complete the work that we had set out to do that day. There is no justifiable basis to conclude that the vice president has that kind of authority.
Well, the next hearings currently scheduled to take place next Tuesday and Thursday.
Staying in Washington, momentum around a bipartisan federal gun safety bill may be wavering on Capitol Hill.
After initially promising to push forward a bipartisan plan this week, lawmakers still don't have a bill on the table. Capitol correspondent Raquel Martin is in D.C. with more.
The bipartisan gun safety plan designed to curb gun violence across the country has hit a snag on Capitol Hill.
We don't know what the specifics are.
Thursday, Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz said the bipartisan group of senators who brokered a deal Sunday have failed to introduce a real plan.
Well, at this point, we have a one-page talking points of bullet points.
The framework includes new mental health and school safety investments, would require anyone 21 and under to undergo a more stringent review process before purchasing a gun, and includes more money to help states adopt red flag laws, which allows family members to petition a judge and have the guns of someone deemed a danger temporarily removed. For Republicans like Cruz and Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, that's a deal breaker.
I've got major problems with most all of the red flag laws across the country.
Red flag laws can be used to disarm law-abiding citizens.
In the end, only 10 Republicans are needed to pass the plan in the Senate, and Democrats remain optimistic.
I have continued confidence.
Lead Democratic negotiator Chris Murphy says he believes the two sides can agree on a text by next week.
All we have to do is write text that is true to the framework.
Thursday, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the House is ready to act once the Senate finishes the bill.
We're waiting prayerfully.
And this week, the most powerful Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, said he thinks he could get behind it.
All right, let's find out what, I'm sorry, Allie, go ahead. I got ahead of myself there.
It's okay. Turning now to the latest on COVID-19, children 4 years old and younger could be eligible for a dose of the COVID vaccine as soon as next week after a recent approval by an FDA panel. With COVID hospitalizations and death rates among children growing, pediatric doctors have been testing vaccines to prove their necessity, safety, and effectiveness for young children. We spoke to a few doctors in our area who gave their thoughts.
All the safeguards are in place. The data has been analyzed by the most brilliant minds out there in infectious disease, and in particular pediatric infectious disease. It's really not very different from the routine vaccines that are given every day.
And preliminary testing of child-safe doses of the Moderna vaccine showed an over 40% efficacy rate. For Pfizer vaccines, it was around 80%. Approval from the CDC this week could have children receiving those doses soon after.
All right, without further ado, let's find out what some folks will be talking about at the water cooler this morning. It is over in the NBA Final. The Golden State Warriors closing out the Celtics last night, 103-90 in Game 6. Steph Curry right there, your MVP with 34 points. It's the Warriors' 4th championship in the last 8 years. Oh, so sweet for a team that missed the playoffs 1 year ago as they celebrate on the famed parquet in Boston.
Oh, man, that guy can't be stopped.
Yeah, you think there's a couple of things here. I mean, you know, Curry, obviously his performance was incredible. Klay Thompson coming back from those devastating knee injuries to get back into the NBA Finals and win a championship. A great story for Golden State as well.
Yeah, great win for them. Couldn't push it out to one more game. I was really rooting for a Game 7 that I might actually be able to stay up for, but it's not going to happen.
Next year.
Maybe next year, yes. Bus stop forecast here. Kids heading into school, maybe their last Regents day today. A couple more next week, possibly.
Yeah, a couple more next week.
A couple more next week. Nice start, though. Nice finish as well. 70s for both this morning and this afternoon. 8-day forecast. This weekend looks great. Father's Day weekend, Juneteenth, kicking off Jazz Fest. So much happening. The highlight here is the overnight lows, down into the low 50s, pockets of 40s for some to kick off this week. If you like the warmth, it'll be back next week.
All right, James, thank you, and thanks so much for watching News 8 at Sunrise.
Our next update coming up in 30 minutes. CBS Mornings is up next. Have a great day.